Under Plywood by Thomas Dillon.
To begin at the beginning. It is spring, cheerless night in the large coastal town. Braless and panty slack, a part-time prostitute totters back, slowly down through the black and brown town, limping invisible back to her university hall of residence. A salt and sewage scented breeze blows from the soiled and oil-slicked sea to tease the Tesco-bagged trees and diseased shrubbery, waves the weeds on roundabouts, caresses traffic cones, and chills the bones. Listen, it is night moving in the streets. The festering wind blows burger boxes down Biarritz Boulevard and across the Millennium Plaza. Listed buildings quietly decay, budlier bushes sway. Boarded up banks as blind as bats, once proud aloof, now stand in mute reproof. Soft flakes fall from the plywood estate agents' boards, drift down like foreclosure notices to further foul the filthy footpaths.
And all the people of the drunk, degraded, drugged and downcast town are sleeping now.
Hush! The babies are sleeping as their single parents snore. The barroom bored bureaucrats, spoiled brats of bloated plutocrats and scabby cats. The old age, the minimum wage, the disengaged. Unemployed bricklayers, bankrupt purveyors, smug surveyors, white van conveyors and football players. Chancers and pole dancers, loft laggers and carpetbaggers. Pipe fitters, bullshitters, corporate big hitters, the redundant, the retired, the sporadically hired, the engaged part-time and those in full-time crime, hair bleachers, preachers and teachers, factors, contractors and out-of-work actors, debased and two-faced politicians, social statisticians, social scroungers, full-time loungers, and the economically inactive majority.
A butch gives a cutch to her gay protégé in a negligee and prays for better days.
The underclass sleep in the underpass. One man's bridge is another man's shelter.
Listen, call centres and call girls are silent. The pumping, jumping, rumping, thumping nightclubs now as quiet as crypts. Bacteria multiply in curry house kitchens. Fat cools in sewers. Pigeons roost in rotting rafters. And a pale moon pauses in its progress over the posthumous port. Grass grows in the gutters of a stadium. Dew drops on the astroturf pitch below. Posters proclaiming the possible promotion to the Premiership peel. Another season past. Anticipation through frustration to resignation. You can hear the mould growing, the hushed town softly snoring. Only your eyes see the ghosts of the once great port. You alone can see what it may once have been and what it has become.
Only your eyes are unclosed and see the lights of the trashy waterside apartments in the black mirror of the stagnant marina, where the floating camper vans of the nouveau riche bob above the sacks of drowned kittens and other unwanted pets. The fully furnished floating fiberglass funhouses and plywood pleasure palaces parked at pontoons. The playboy, passing wind and wasted seamen, sea cup, seduction and vitamin C, the maid of plywood, and one solitary working vessel, one sad survivor of the former fishing fleet, sits by slimy steps soliciting non-existing tourists, the master baiter, paintwork peeling, mast creaking, slowly leaking.
Listen, as the soft soiled wind moves inland through deserted streets, and blows over parks, retail parks and business parks and public parks and the endless empty car parks of the edgelands, over dog shit and debris, used cars, castaway cartons and condoms. Supermarket signs say Super Spring sales. Factory signs say failed in Wales. A night watchman dozes in a little shed outside this city of the dead.
Time passes. Listen. Time passes.
Come closer now. Only you can hear the cladding quietly rusting on the out-of-town factory shopping outlets, multiplex cinemas, PFI hospitals, carpet and car phone warehouses in the damp, dark night. Only you can see the banal bedrooms, the MDF furniture, the trainers on the IKEA shoe racks, the soiled Primark undergarments, discarded sex toys, indigestion tablets, and souvenirs from Spain. Only you can hear and see, behind the eyes of the sleepers, the drama and despair, the grinding repetition of lives measured by the passage of sand, the clock hand, and the written command, the shallow rise and fall of their slow progress through this crumbling land. From where you are, you can hear their dreams.
Thrice retired quangocrats dream of the glory days of European grants and development agencies, long lazy lunches and corporate hospitalities, fact-finding missions to far-off places, and the false faces and bulging briefcases of regeneration aces promising the promised land, who planned a brand new city built on sand. The potential palaces populated by prosperous people now postponed. Fancy aspirations dashed through lack of cash. Abandoned plans and prospects put out with the trash. The bandwagon crashed into the gravy train, and all the dreams and schemes proved to be in vain.
And all that was left when the circus left town was a circle of sawdust and shit on the ground.
Captain Cat, the retired blind sea captain, asleep between the steel side bars of his bed in a nursing home, dreams of phantom ships riding at anchor as tides turn ceaselessly, the locks forever locked to long-abandoned docks. For 40 years or more he sails on in sleep under grey funnel and red duster. Cardiff, Calcutta, Kowloon and Cape Horn, as damned as that Dutchman. Captain Cat wakes crying loudly, not for the first time shattering the silence of the nursing home. The neighbours barely stir.
Ontloyn Williams, a retired, blind, drunk rugby player, asleep on the sofa, his television still playing Sky Sports in a room full of trophies, dreams of his glory days. A schoolboy cap, the late call-up to Wales B against Fiji at Pontypridd, the runner-up medal for the final of the WRU West Wales Cup, 3 whole seasons with Penarth and playing the Barbarians there. The call from the bench at Murrayfield for 10 glorious minutes and a full cap.
All hope of Grand Slams and Triple Crowns having long faded that season.
He wakes, briefly elated, and stares blankly at the television, which is showing the World Topless Ice Curling Contest from Qatar. Then slides slowly back to sleep.
From where you are, you can hear in ocean view,
An exciting luxury development with panoramic prospects.
in the spring moonless night, Miss Price, discount couturier to the criminal underclass, dreams of her lover.
Tall as a telecommunications mast, sturdy as a motorway embankment, thighs like concrete bollards, arms like a skip lorry, and eyes like halogen security lights, scooping low over my gymnasium-toned and salon-tanned body. In my dream, Mr. Mogg Edwards says,
I am an importer and retailer of value for money essential household goods, mad with lust. I lust for you more than all the solar-powered garden lights, effective detergents, bubble packs of die-cast ironmongery, plastic swan plant holders, Teflon-esque kitchen utensils, amusing plaques with mottos, buckets, bins and biscuit tins in all my pound shop world. I have come to take you away to my international emporium in the shopping precinct, where the credit card machine saves the customers' PIN numbers for our future convenience. Throw away your fluffy M&S all-in-one and Matalan duvet. I will warm the sheets like an unsupervised sunbed.
She sighs and replies,
I will order for you from a catalogue that came with the Sunday newspaper colour supplement a combined wallet, personal organiser, and mobile phone holder, and it will beat like my heart when the phone is set to silent and your creditors ring you.
Mafanwi, before you are as dry as a nun's nasty, will you say...
Yes, Mog, yes, Mog. Yes, yes, yes.
And all the bells of the lottery ticket machine shall ring as if the whole town has won the Euro Millions.
Come now, drift up the dark. Drift up the dark to the park, to the creative quarter and the live-work unit where Jack Black maintains his Christian fundamentalist website and internet propaganda workshop. Alone, Jack sleeps, his jogging bottoms tied to his ankle with bungee luggage cords, and dreams of chasing swingers and mingers and karaoke singers, masturbators, fornicators and dogging couples, lap and pole dancers, lesbians, libertines, trannies and drag queens, flogging the deviants with a razor wire cat o' nine tails through the vast, festering brothel of his nightmares, crying, Achavi, Achavi.
In his pornography-packed bed sit in Balaclava Road, no good boy who dreams of all that Jack detests and fondles himself in sleep.
Also alone and restless, through unfulfilled sexual, social and career aspirations, Miss Lily Smalls, spinster and freelance cleaning operative. She dreams of winning televised talent contests, 3 stone lighter and an octave higher, a sequin shimmering siren of soul. She mesmerizes millions through the majesty of her performance.
Bassi Profondo, ringing an Albert Hall performance out of a church hall talent.
And the dreams of younger women intertwine in the dark night. In their fevered imagination, they become the common goal of Premier Division footballers who come to carry them off like pantomime princes. Miraculous multimedia celebrity is confirmed upon them as they sleep. Taller, thinner, and as tanned and shiny as new leatherette settees, with eyebrows impossibly arched. They illuminate the covers of magazines at supermarket checkout desks. They attend parties and premieres. Quick-witted and silicone-titted, they captivate and charm the viewers of reality TV shows and drink champagne.
One, less aspirational than others, will settle for being a weather girl on regional television.
In the pretentiously pillared penthouse suite of the Esplanade Hotel, one who once shared such dreams now silently schemes. Polly Garter, the disproportionately youthful third wife of renowned thespian Sir Hopkin Burton, prizes herself away from his recumbent form and again reviews the prenuptial contract which she has committed to memory.
Meanwhile, in a nicely appointed detached Edwardian villa in an outer suburb, lies alone the 16 snoring stone of Councillor Waldo, pundit and part-time academic, serial promoter of social enterprises, one-time, sometime politician of the year today and gone tomorrow strain, manicured hands, palms up on the Melin Tregwynt coverlet. Wardrobes crammed with suits and shirts, striped check, plain, smart, casual, formal, 3 separate dinner suits, a tie for every club and occasion, alphabetically racked. Councillor Waldo wears more hats than the Russian army. With a regional political journal in which he was quoted twice on the bedside table and his BlackBerry under the pillow, he dreams of committees past and present, committees yet to come.
Listen, in his dreams, Lord Cutglass contests for chairmanship with this arriviste upstart, rock-hard old guard, more blue Labour than new Labour. He is resolute in his right to rule.
Far to his left, Evans the Death, serial pessimist, dreams of economic apocalypse, mass unemployment, the collapse of public order, of conservative governments.
Gossamer Bynon, school teacher and daughter of the only self-proclaimed charcutier in town, dreams of cool shade and clean water, while Bynon himself imagines impossible sausages.
His rival in the ruthless quest for the discerning shopper, Die Boulangerie, is even more troubled in sleep. Bewildered by baguettes, bedeviled by bread and buns, crucified by croissants, Die sweats through flannelette and bakes on through the night.
Organ Morgan rests more assured, the tax-free tunesmith only occasionally flexing his freelance fingers to tickle tunes on his toes. Tomorrow may bring more soulful funeral hymns, mournful melancholia in crematoria followed by buffets, tea dances followed by tea, dinner dances and free dinners, repetitive recitals in old people's homes, tastefully tinkled segues selected at random in hotel cocktail bars, social club sing-alongs and cack-handed cabaret, and sometimes on Saturdays, martial marriage music to be wrung from antiquated organs in churches and chapels. Organ Morgan dreams on, churning out old tunes for folding money and free drinks.
Curled together like spoons, Goronwy Griffiths and Nerys Jones, a 30-something couple, still on the upward trajectory of their love affair, dream together. Both brought up strictly chapel. Theirs was a traditional romance, casual sex leading to the semi-permanent sharing of a duvet, and now the mingling of books and CDs in rented cohabitation. They dream of permanence, a joint mortgage, and perhaps one day, children.
Time passes. Listen, time passes. A rat scurries home past the shored-up hulk of Bethesda Chapel. Dawn does not break here. It gets lighter by imperceptible degrees, and when it reaches a brighter shade of gloom, you assume that night is done and day begun. Stand on this hill. This is Llanbry's hill, old as the hills, squat, grey and desolate. And from this small circle of stones, made not by druids, but by a visiting Norwegian land artist paid by the Arts Council using funds received from the Scandinavian promoters of a nearby wind farm, you can see all of the town comatose below you, like debris draped in that drab, damp drizzle. Fewer than 100,000 souls inhabit this appalling, sprawling, rundown seaside town, which may indeed be called a backwater of life, with all disrespect to its natives. Though there is little to attract the tourist or culture vulture, a psychogeographer might spend time drifting through its dreary housing estates, bleak business parks, forgotten and forlorn factories, and misguided and much derided quarters designated by unsuccessful regeneration projects. If academically inclined, he might find sanctuary in its university, an ill-matched agglomeration of former technical and teacher training colleges, or visit its museum. There he can see the replica of the first Ordnance Survey map of the town.
Available at gift shop, if open.
The once tiny fishing port which grew swollen, boosted by immigration and bloated by industry, a town which spewed inland and along the coast, a town which grew by virtue of being halfway between where things were and where some people thought those things could be sold more profitably. Fortunes were made, but the wealth never stayed. Once the coal had been mined, it went into decline. Bombed flat by Goring, rebuilt by the boring, corrupt and incompetent, shady and eloquent spivs in development. Black marketeers who built brand new careers in post-war construction and further destruction. Together they planned and worked hand in hand in a free-for-all market for derelict land. Concrete built, once bright and white, now stained and grey decay and blight the sight. See what they made.
That is what the future looked like many years ago.
Now the armoured shutters of the empty shops shun sun, some say the very light of day, in towns where people have no pay or time to play.
Look out from this ancient hill, out beyond the frayed edge of the town in folded fields like eider downs. In the slightly cleaner air, self-made millionaires display their savoir-faire in unseemly piles of second-hand style, a country mile from the rank and file, popping the corks in their own South Forks with gated drives and trophy wives. Rain puddles the patios of prefabricated ponderosas and pours from the palatial porches and penis extension Porsches. In one more lowered, dishonest decade, there is still money to be made from security fencing, drug dispensing, second-hand cars and cocktail bars, from gyms where no one slims and breaking limbs, selling things for injection or achieving erection, taking cash for protection or ensuring election, discreet debt collection, perverse predilection, from renting rooms like furnished tombs to students, one assumes. Those with the ready cash and foresight have invested heavily in the adjoining farmland, a literal form of hedge betting. The recession has temporarily halted the relentless outward march of the outer suburbs and the threatened invasion of green fields by grey people in orange houses. But speculative development will resume one day. In that event, they will be insulated or more than compensated. Planning permissions can be procured, opportunistic and unplanned, consent on demand if you pay the backhand. Take the pain of the capital gain and retire to Spain.
Look down to the town which starts to wake long before the sun. Lines of buses rumble into life in distant depots. Fluorescent lights flicker into life in Cipollina's cafe. Bin men bang and rattle, watchmen stop watching, bundles of newspapers thump to the pavement outside newsagents. The light rain makes hazy halos around halogen security lights. At the corner of Balaclava Road and Sebastopol Street, Mr. Singh the Spa laboriously removes the 8 separate padlocks that secure his steel shuttering. Along the street goes Mr. Willy-nilly the postman, his motorized trolley burdened with bills and unsolicited advertising material.
He has carefully checked the morning's load for anything that may be a greeting card containing money.
The sounds of the city gain momentum in the half-light before dawn. Those who work are woken. On a former council estate in the Badlands, a team of highly trained policemen in paramilitary garb smashed down the door of 2 elderly pensioners, waking the work-shy for miles around. Waiting, at the correct address in the next block, PC Artilleries looks out from his unmarked surveillance van and hears the sound of several dozen toilets being simultaneously flushed. The town will be alive with inebriated vermin for days again, rats on the rave, coked up cockroaches, and mice with the munchies.
And listen, what is this? A Babel-tongued battalion of Balkan builders, a cackling cohort of council cleaners and its anxious functionaries, anxious auxiliaries and fevered fixers, converging on a new centre for performing arts in a last-ditch, desperate attempt to give it the illusion of completion. Let us look at the antics of the sycophantic and the frantic actions of the various factions. It is not yet fully light, but already a maelstrom of activity is developing inside a gridlock of white vans. Out of the window go safety rules with ladders and lamps and all manner of tools, trowels and towels, electrical spools. Bouquets are being carried in and buckets carried out. A gathering racket in all kinds of jackets, from high vis to serious biz.
All those who still work are now done with dreaming, teeth need cleaning, kettle steaming, mothers screaming, children are coerced from beds and quickly fed, socks are hastily matched, balls are scratched, Weetabix mashed before the morning dash. Talking heads tout trivia on televisions, bad news and banality, gossip and harsh reality. With broadcast media lightly fed, families force-feeding, papers lie as yet unread. There is no time for reading.
Mary Ann Sailors fails to open the bedroom window of her sheltered flat, but still looks to heaven and thanks the Lord that she's 85 years, 3 months and a day.
Ocky milkman stacks cartons of Danish yogurt in a German-owned food store on the edge of town. Above the chill display cabinet is a large sepia photograph of a nearby high street in its Edwardian heyday, a horse-drawn cart full of milk churns in the foreground. Big issue sellers jostle with an East European freestyle begging team who have hit town and occupied the best pitches. The Reverend Eli Jenkins wakes to find that the lead has disappeared from his roof again. Slowly, he raises his eyes from its violated valleys and broken barge boards and recites his own bardic verses to heaven itself.
Dear Gwalia, I know that there are towns less fortunate than this, where thieving lousy bastards really take the piss, and also steal the slates themselves, the pews and pulpits, vestry shelves, stained glass windows, chairs and doors, and if they have the time, the floors. But Lord, my faith is truly tested when by the police the thieves arrested, released on bail, a fine or warning, then nick my lead again by morning, presenting me with leaky roofs. Maybe your mysterious moves to further test my faith in all the scumbags who ignore God's call. I know I teach we must forgive. Some simply have to steal to live. They know no better, you may say. Fair enough. Be as that may, I can't but wish that for 1 hour you would grant me all your power. In retribution, I'd call down fire and brimstone on this town. I'd burn the buggers in their boozers, these sons of whores, these thieves and losers. I'll grant you this may not deter the hardcore ones who might prefer in hell to burn and disappear than another day spent living here.
Mary Ann Sailors sits in her kitchenette and praises the Lord for porridge pop-de-ping.
In Cipollina's cafe, a professor of painting chews on a crumpet and counts the days to retirement. Since the old College of Art was merged into the new university, he has been completely marginalized, but his new masters are unable to make him redundant because of the detailed provisions of the bequest attached to the chair of painting. They have made it clear to him that his salary will be better spent on a new laser cutter in the Department of Creative Digital Design Sciences, as the former college is now known.
Elsewhere, the aspirations of the night are trashed and smashed, dreams are dashed in daylight.
From the pavement, opposite the new Centre for Performing Arts, Frank Lloyd George sullenly surveys the silver-clad supersized soap dish claiming to be his creation. Any hope of finally achieving his lifelong ambition to be accepted as Welsh National Architect had vanished like the plywood hoardings that had screened the construction of this abomination. These people never learn. Like moths to flames, compelled to play the game, they have to take the blame and bear the shame. How can one explain the pain of talent spent to no avail? The laws of public projects will prevail.
Any enterprise will be scrutinized, compromised, and neutralized before the project is authorized and publicized. Contracts may be signed and buildings designed and plans refined, but once presented, maligned, the proposals declined, and the budgets realigned, the final decision resultant on cost consultants. Then, carefully detailed and specified, certified, ratified, misapplied, and finally rectified. Departments the size of small cities appoint men to committees which are supplemented by representatives from any organization remotely concerned with the project. All are equal at the committee table, but those responsible for funding are more equal than others. All evidence must be weighed, additional consultants paid, information relayed, decisions delayed, and then formally conveyed. This is called exercising probity in public expenditure.
Of course, such proceedings do not apply to the private sector, which is concerned with profit.
Ah, those were the days, mutters Frank Lloyd George.
Shifting his 18 stone of malignant fat, sweat condensing on the lenses of his bottle-bottom spectacles, Scoop Jones, chief reporter of the Ponty Express, reaches for another corporate PR release to be fitted between the advertising in the next super souvenir supplement. The self-styled voice of the valleys has no shortage of material or illusions about objective journalism. The editorial line is unswerving on the parallel tracks of falling circulation and advertising revenue. Thou shalt suck up to those who pay our wages. By redaction, he reduces the repetitive counterclaims for credit from contributors. Buried in his bulk, the remaining 18-ounce shadow of his former self leaks a continuous, insidious critique of the words appearing before him.
Polly Garter breakfasts in the penthouse suite of the Esplanade Hotel and fails to outstare the exceptionally large and vicious-looking seagull that watches her from an ornamental iron table on the wet balcony outside. As she lifts a forkful of lightly scrambled egg to her as-yet unpainted lips, the seagull squeezes out a few pints of guano. She returns the fork to the plate untouched and decides to give the muesli and Muller yogurt a miss.
The professor of painting pauses near the rotting ruin of the former Art College building, as he does most mornings. It has remained boarded up through successive failed redevelopment projects, repossessions and fraud squad investigations. A tattered impression of luxury studio apartments fades into the plywood shuttering that barricades the once elegant portico. Light rain drifts in through the tall, shattered windows of the top-floor studios. He shakes his head sadly and walks into the atrium of the former telephone exchange, built in the 1970s, and now the Department of Creative Digital Design Sciences.
Mary Ann Saylors says softly to herself as she looks out from her kitchen window over the wheelie bins in the service yard, "It is spring, and I am in the damp, dreary drizzle of my twilight years, but this is the chosen land."
At the rear of the new Centre for Performing Arts, the Welsh flag hangs wet and limp above the site offices of Llewellyn Glyndwr and Sons, Construction, established 1894. Now the wholly owned subsidiary of the French multinational, which also cleans the hospitals, operates the car parks, empties the bins, and sweeps the streets of the former town. The former family business has been revived under the regional directorship of Owen Cherry Owen. A one-time major in the Royal Engineers, he has made something of himself since his almost dishonourable discharge, the discrepancies in the mess accounts being resolved and the honour of the regiment preserved. His previous experience of building and construction in the Principality amounted to 6 months building targets for tank practice on Mynydd y Punt and 3 days supervising the construction of a rostrum for a visit from the Prince of Wales. His several sisters had, however, married often and well, divorcing amicably and adding to his existing list of contacts a range of current and former brothers-in-law among the small, self-selected elites who controlled committees concerned with construction contracts.
Outside the Dick Penderyn Mixed Infant School, a blonde beehive in a four-wheel drive has just arrived. As she triple parks to drop off little Jaden and Jordan, a passing ambulance nearly scratches her cattle bar. "Some people just have no consideration," she screams, slamming the door. Gossamer Bynon watches her drive off from the window of her prefabricated flat-pack classroom, then returns to her laptop where she's been scouring the jobs market. She closes the lid, resigned to a further day at the chalk face, and walks to the assembly hall, the plywood floors flexing beneath her feet.
Increasingly given to sentiment with passing years, Sir Hopkin Burton stands at his hotel window and seeks out in the drizzle-dimmed distance the cupola of the old town theatre, where he'd made his start in repertory. From there, his role as a teenage tearaway Mercutio had propelled him from the provinces to London, within the season where his performance as Pinky in Brighton Rock had made hardened critics soil the stalls in terror. Stratford had shivered and withered before the youthful menace of his Crouchback and Scottish king. He put the shake back in Shakespeare in Our Winters of Discontent, as one critic had memorably put it.
A small group of elders representing the local Muslim community consider the proposal put by Councillor Waldo that they take the soon-to-be former town theatre on a peppercorn lease from the council and convert it into a mosque.
Mary Ann Sailors looks at the free bus pass that has pride of place on her small mantel shelf and praises the Lord that she's lived to see her land set free, and she has been showered with such bounty by its government. Her nearest bus stop is a quarter of a mile uphill from her flat, and the service more irregular than that of war-torn third world countries. A rust-flecked van reverses into the rear yard of a shop, and Miss Mvanwy Price takes delivery of branded sportswear from her occasional suppliers, Wide Boy and the Warehouse Kid. While they count out the cash, a shop assistant removes the price and security tags still attached to the garments.
Ontloyn Williams awakes among the empty bottles and congealed curry cartons to the gathering sounds of day. Chewing on a stale chapati, he makes a cup of coffee in his kitchen and listens to the children play behind the chain-link fence of the Welsh Sectarian Primary School.
Mr. Singh takes discreet delivery of a suspiciously sizable selection of spirits and beers which have travelled from Europe avoiding frontiers. Wide Boy and the Warehouse Kid failed to persuade him to take 4 cases of their champagne, despite assurances that it tastes just like the real thing.
Evans above, local roofing contractor and jobbing builder, refrains from saying, "I told you so," when called by the Reverend Eli Jenkins. Fortunately, through the regularity of such incidents, he now has enough plywood, tarpaulin and rope in stock to waterproof a soccer stadium.
In the Atlantic View function room of the Esplanade Hotel, representatives of the local media affect nonchalance and try to convey the impression that they interview Oscar winners before dinner most days. Recycled opinions are exchanged, intended questions changed and schedules rearranged. They have been trumped and the queue has been jumped by the regional broadcasters, who have scheduled an hour-long televised special on the opening of the new Centre for the Performing Arts. They have promised that their programme will advance the beatification of Sir Hopkyn Burton by amplifying his role in rescuing the Arts Centre project. The amused acquiescence of Sir Hopkyn's agent confirms this to be one of the more agreeable fictions he has been asked to promulgate in recent months.
The chief executive of the broadcasting company confides to a colleague that they can deal with the much messier truth within a year or so when the centre runs out of money, as it inevitably will.
Captain Cat has been hosed down, force-fed and forcibly led to the day lounge of the nursing home by its brisk and efficient staff. He is parked for the morning in an armchair by a window which has a distant glimpse of the sea. Salt tears leak from his sightless eyes.
Di Boulangerie consults the recipe of the celebrity chef once again and compares the glossy photograph with the 6 dozen shapeless croissants smouldering in his oven.
In the function room of the Esplanade Hotel, the clock hands move inexorably towards deadlines. Anxiety grows, time slows, and eyes flick to the closed doors of the Palm Court as more well-worn anecdotes are exchanged. An old hand offers the opinion that Sir Hoppy was better copy 30 years ago, when he could have been relied upon to turn up drunk, grope the waitresses, and punch the mayor while proclaiming profanities. They agree with that, and the view that Sir Hopkyn had turned the remarkable trick of becoming the sophisticated sociopath of choice in cinemas, scaring audiences witless worldwide, whilst appearing as everyone's favourite uncle on television chat shows.
The actors' attendants were getting a taste of the former in the oversized UPVC conservatory, which the hotel called its Palm Court.
In a boardroom buried in the bulk of the vaguely Art Deco and distinctly neo-fascist County Hall, 24 people of mixed intelligence are engaged in the final round of hand-to-hand combat. The launch committee was a subcommittee reporting through the marketing and events committee, who reported to the project committee, who advised the main board, who reported in turn to the board of trustees. In 11 months of meeting, nits were picked and hairs split with atomic precision, as a suggested guest list outgrew the building intended to accommodate them. Threats and counter-threats were made, hard words exchanged, lunches and drinks bought, promotions offered, deals done and promises exchanged. In the heat of the moment, one member blurted the opinion that this was just an invitation to the opening of an art centre, not the royal box at the opening of the Olympics.
He was promptly transferred from his post and now manages a landfill site in a distant parish.
200 miles to the east, the editor of the New Architectural Review tosses his invitation into the bin after checking that a local hack will be happy to provide a suitable piece cheaper than a first-class return ticket from London. Nothing new to review, just another provincial vanity project of purely local interest.
The Minister of State Entertainment asks once again whether he can send his apologies, and is reminded that the only reason the town has the new Centre for Performing Arts is that it remains a very marginal constituency. He gloomily reads his brief again, which is to turn up and take as much credit as he can.
In the photographic pantheon of Cipollina's Cafe, a yet-to-be knighted Hopkins Burton, possibly as Hamlet, is located 2 down from the Pope, flanked by the Juventus UEFA Cup-winning team of 1984 and Stanley Baker in Zulu. Among the various Welsh and Italians on display, the more prominently featured are Welsh Italians. Victor Spinetti with the Beatles, a Sidoli leaping high in the line-out, Pino Palladino on electric bass guitar, a couple of Calzaghes and a forte with a Queen. Wiping brown sauce from the Formica table below the photograph, Anwyn Banwyn informs no one in particular that Sir Hopkins Burton was not even from around here, but from their valleys.
In Class 3J of the Dick Penderyn Mixed Infant School, Miss Gossamer Bynon is coming to the conclusion that 33 charges of simultaneous infanticide and an indefinite stretch in prison would be a small price to pay for release from her chosen career.
In a corner of his office, the Professor of Painting works undisturbed on a small canvas of 3 bottles and a jar, with a simplicity and subtle tonality worthy of Giorgio Morandi. He paints with intense concentration, completely focused on the small objects before him. They are as one. Outside this orb, his world becomes each day a place of lesser beauty.
Mary Ann Sailors reads in the Ponty Express the announcement that the Welsh Government has achieved its ambition to create an all-Wales coastal path. Although she can barely make it to Mr. Singh's Spa Shop and back on a fine day, she praises the Lord that it's now possible to circumnavigate the Principality on foot.
Down at the marina, in the cavernous expanse of the former chandlery converted by Wetherspoons into the Sailors' Arms, the casual bigotry of the regulars is extended to embrace architecture. Unfortunately, no one disagrees with the view that the new art centre is rubbish. Their grunts and nods signal a consensus that would have prevailed had the pronouncement been on the quality of Welsh regional rugby, the performance of politicians, the beer, or life. To revive the faltering discussion, Evans the Death pronounces that the project is doomed, economically and culturally, a profligate waste of money and an affront to the average ratepayer. Again, there is agreement. The more knowledgeable noting that the original project had been diluted and costs must reduced, but then reinflated to accommodate the demands of the many partners in its promotion. Thomas the Trivia, the pub quiz champion, illustrates the point by reminding the daytime drinkers that to secure funding from the Arts Council, the centre had been obliged to provide facilities for modern dance.
I'm very keen on modern dance, I am, especially with those shiny poles, says no good boyo.
And the Welsh Assembly insisted on the building being sustainable, adds Thomas the Trivia.
How green is my ballet? Asks no good boyo.
At the bar, a stranger asked for a bottle of Grolsch.
Is that a wine? Asks the barmaid.
In the nearby university cafeteria, the new Centre for Performing Arts is discussed more in self-congratulation. There, the head of the Department of Performing Arts is buying lunch for the head of business studies to celebrate the certainty that the centre will fail financially within 2 years. Its management and effective ownership will then transfer to the university, circumventing the budgetary constraints imposed by the regional government and the lottery funding rules, and the university will acquire additional facilities at a tenth of their true cost.
The committee consider the final list of celebrity guests who have accepted. No one from Doctor Who, but one or two from Torchwood, and the neighbour from Gavin and Stacey has said he will come if he can get away in time. A semi-finalist in a popular televised talent contest, someone who had a hit single when disco was popular, 3 who have appeared in West End musicals, and a former scrum half who commentates on Six Nations games on Grandstand. They note that politicians of various denominations have been seated well apart as suggested, as have the opera singers. A committee member who continuously cultivates his image as a man of the people has insisted upon representatives of the community being invited.
He is informed that only 3 entered the draw for tickets in the Ponty Express, so each has been asked to bring a friend.
A trolley the size of a hospital bed is wheeled in, laden with samosas, satay and prawns on skewers, vol au vents, chicken legs and wings. The committee adjourns for lunch.
In the Sailor's Arms, Onsloyn Williams tries to steer the conversation to rugby, and in particular, the good old days when it was played by colliers, farmers, steelmen and teachers, not overpaid permitan prima donnas in pink lycra. Evans the Death agrees that regional rugby is doomed, economically, socially and morally.
Concealed in a corner booth, Wide Boy and the Warehouse Kid dispense duty-free tobacco and cigarettes to their customers for cash. An elderly and arthritic regular inquires as to whether an ounce or 2 of skunk marijuana may be obtained for purely medicinal purposes. The young entrepreneurs advise him that theirs is now a legitimate business and refer him to a specialist supplier of their acquaintance.
Lord Cutglass dines at his club. Comfortable among the crachach. The cloakroom is a thicket of lightly steaming Crombie overcoats, relieved by the occasional British warm and Barber. Today, the regular lunchtime attendance of cobwebbed-haired colonels and superannuated solicitors is swollen by council grandees and the cream of the county, the grandsons of the great. Most members have 3 names and 2 houses. Their certificate of membership, a Cuffin Williams landscape on the wall of each. Major Cherry Owen is already holding court in the corner, happy to explain that the contract is not due for formal completion for several months. And only he, Cherry Owen, could have ensured that the foyer, reception area and theatre were ready by today. By inference, this is something he has done to accommodate the busy schedule of his close personal friend, Sir Hopkin Burton. He suppresses some uncharacteristic nervousness in so doing, for, despite several firm assurances, he remains uncertain that he will finally get to meet Sir Hopkin that evening.
Only the small select band in the Palm Court of the Esplanade Hotel are aware of what Sir Hopkin Burton's agent has described as a petite crisette. It appeared to some that his response to the revelation that only the theatre was being named after him, and not the whole building, suggested something more than a minor misunderstanding. In the subsequent press conference, the assembled posse of pressmen reacted with a mixture of surprise and disappointment to his announcement that, alas, due to his busy schedule, he would be unable to mingle with other guests at the ceremony that evening. Unfortunately, due to unexpected commitments elsewhere, he would have to leave immediately after making a brief speech.
Old instincts are stirred in Scoop Jones, who waddles off to speak to his editor.
An elderly customer inspects the trays arrayed and displayed in Mr. Bynan's delicatessen, the salami, samosas, satay and prawns on skewers, chorizo and chicken wings, and asks him why he doesn't sell meat anymore. He weighs her up with a practiced eye and calculates there is not enough meat on her to make it worth manning the mincer.
Brenda Blaenavon, a media industries guru, makes her way from the Innovation Technium building in the Creativity Quarter. She clutches promotional pamphlets proclaiming the town a new cultural powerhouse, the next Barcelona, Bilbao, Baltimore, Birmingham. The Centre for Arts, a new beating heart bringing stars from LA, plays from Broadway, Shakespeare's prose, musical shows, Les Mis and Showbiz, and ballets from Bolshoi, wherever that is.
The afternoon wears on. Fat families feed facing flat-screen televisions, drugged on a diet of daytime dross. Celebrity slappers chat, cooks compete. Cambridge-educated comedians compare quiz shows. Dons die by the dozen in Oxford. Murderous maniacs mow down Middle England in midsummer, and bourgeois blackguards are brought to book by a barely believable Belgian bounty hunter. Endless advertising, advising and chastising. Thou shalt, thou shouldn't, go on, who wouldn't? Safety compliance, shampoo science, whiter teeth and pain relief, food for pets, online bets, play roulette, restructure your debts. Solicitor services offered for free, no win, no fee for your injury. Cure your cold, post us your gold, cash deals and oven-ready meals.
Clusters of smokers crouch in doorways outside call centres trying to stay dry. Multinational queues stretch from post office counters. A few shoppers scurry across west pedestrianised streets trying to avoid the rain and the council-sanctioned beggars representing obscure charities. A lone busker with a banjo bawls Bohemian Rhapsody in a deserted shopping arcade. Large faded umbrellas sag unused over empty tables outside steel-shuttered nightclubs in the cafe quarter.
The editor of the Ponty Express is amused and unconcerned by the news relayed by his chief reporter. The super souvenir supplement is in no way jeopardized, the ink being long dry on the advertising contracts. Scoop Jones is instructed that if the great Hopkins Burton has misunderstood or been misled, then so be it. He only has to turn up long enough for their photographer to get some pictures and they can pad it out with local celebrities. Only the sad, sorry suckers who scrambled for seats will be sold short.
Scoop Jones shuffles back to his pen, asking himself, not for the first time, why they still refer to the purchasers of the Ponty Express as readers.
Owen Cherry Owen calls at his site office to supervise the supervision of the supervisors. Llewellyn Glyndŵr has a permanent staff of only 7, currently supplemented by assorted subcontractors selected from Serbia to Seville. He feels that these foreign fellows are now almost family.
At some point in history, his former regiment will have shelled all of their ancestors.
More heated words are exchanged in the penthouse suite of the Esplanade Hotel, the ashen-faced agent bearing the brunt of the tirade. He has used every slippery trick in his extensive vocabulary to avoid the outright suggestion that his client has failed to read or understand, that only the theatre, not the building, will bear his name.
Polly Garter is in complete agreement with the agent, but remains silent. She wonders whether this misunderstanding is a sign of senility in her husband, and where this might leave her financially. Before the echo of her front door slamming has subsided, Miss Gossamer Bynon has a glass in her hand. Nursing a fistful of Frascati, she sinks down on her sofa and turns on the television. The Minister of State Enlightenment and Lifelong Learning is assuring his constituents and viewers that he will personally guarantee that teachers will pull their fingers out. She raises 2 of those fingers to the television. Meanwhile, Lily Smalls propels the industrial vacuum cleaner once more down the red carpet and imagines herself waltzing in the arms of a Hollywood heartthrob.
The 2 local apprentices employed by Llewellyn Glyndŵr and Sons as part of the social contract critical in their successful tender, lean, soaked and exhausted on their shovels. They watch the last load of plywood, broken porcelain and plasterboard leave and reflect on their part in this great enterprise. In a year they have learned much. How to unload lorries and load skips, fetch fish and chips and shovel shit. The foreman calls them to his office and presents them with a little test.
Hiya, boys. Think of a number between P44 and P46.
Daytime drifts through dusk to darkness. Homeward traffic crawls outward from the town. Curtains of rain fall over the empty taxi rank of the railway station, and directions are sought to the new arts centre.
Out of here, cut across the car park of the Tesco Superstore and turn left. Go as far as the Tesco Metro and turn right. Down to the end and left by the Tesco Extra, and it's facing you.
Television shows coalesce and congeal as peak viewing time approaches, viewers hypnotised and anaesthetised, fixated by fleeting fame. Talent shows, soap operas, crime and medical dramas merge seamlessly into nature documentaries and the evening news. In all, a ceaseless procession of victims are paraded and degraded for public entertainment.
With a contractor's security lighting successfully simulating searchlights, the new Centre for the Performing Arts resembles an unconvincing spacecraft in a British B-movie. The rain is coming down thicker than the grey galvanised railings erected to keep the non-existent crowds at bay, and looks far more permanent. A bevy of buxom beauties backed by a brace of better-behaved bouncers awaits the gathering of guests in the foyer.
To the rear of the building, a caterer takes a last-minute delivery of 10 cases of their champagne from Wide Boy and the Warehouse Kid, who thoughtfully provide him with a receipt for the real thing.
The foyer is a forest of false smiles, snide and self-satisfied, the smug peck and hug, representing the local Chamber of Commerce, and with Miss Mavanwi Price on his arm, Mr. Mogg Edwards' beaming smile is not reciprocated by the great and good who are gathered in gaggling groups. Miss Price has come straight from the beauty parlour to the charity gala, and her gownless evening strap is in contention for the flashiest, trashiest garment in the gathering.
Ooh, mutton dressed as spam, malicious matrons murmur.
Students from the university's Department of Tourism and Hospitality circulate with trays of drinks and Spanish slates bearing samosas and sausages, satay and prawns on skewers, vol au vent, chicken legs and wings. In a far corner, a harpist plucks away earnestly and inaudibly.
The assembled guests are summoned to their seats for the ceremony.
High in the darkness above the stage, water seeps in through the hastily fitted panelling of the roof and drips onto electrical wiring.
Making his grand entrance, that part of the metabolism of Sir Hopkin Burton, which remains pure ham, acknowledges the applause with a practised wave and smile.
Back in his barred bed, blind Captain Cat sails 7 seas in sleep. His sails are stitched from pirate skins and swollen in pursuit of sin.
PC Attila Rees passes on patrol.
Mary Ann Sailors watches Celebrity Big Brother on her small television and finally loses all faith in God.
The professor of painting pauses in his progress to the pub. He considers the illuminated outline of the new building and sadly concurs that the extravagant claims of its promoters were accurate. It truly embodies international aspiration, appearing as it does to have been lashed up using plywood and tin. All over the world, slum dwellers aspire to build with such materials. Perhaps it is a manifestation of our civic culture, he thinks with resignation. It exemplifies and personifies a society grown more careless in the literal sense. Year on year, we care less about grace. We deface and disgrace this place. With each generation, more capitulation to globalization and privatization, while claiming self-determination as a nation. Yes, we make our own decisions now. We exercise our choice, whether to have half a job for half the price or the cheapest possible option. Regeneration through low specification prefabrication, promoted by part-time politicians with an edifice complex.
They said they'd build a new Jerusalem, and we wound up with Jericho.
Perhaps we needed a cultural revolution more than we needed devolution.
Perhaps we needed to change the way we think, not the way we vote.
This place needed reclamation and renovation, better education, more civilization and aspiration.
Glorification of our nation, not regimentation through regeneration and impersonation.
It is indeed a state-of-the-art building, an embodiment of contemporary culture, its metallic walls a reflective barricade that mock its surroundings. A place where objects that subsidised artists have made are displayed and surveyed, where cultural beauty parades and musical masquerades may be played, a bourgeois amusement arcade.
That is the way things are in this world we've made.
Inside the Centre for Performing Arts, words of mutual esteem are exchanged as arranged, smiles fixed and hands clasped, bouquets presented and grasped. Then, at last,
Sir Hopkin Burton poses, pauses, pulls the cord, the flag drifts down, reveals the board, the adoring horde applaud. As Sir Hopkin and his small entourage exit stage left, a glittering waterfall of electrical sparks cascades from the flyloft to the stage. And as the audience rises to its feet to cheer this final finale, they are plunged into darkness. The theatre is suddenly both starless and Bible black.